Test. Test? I think it's a working. That's not what I want. God damn it. Your channel. Hey, Geek. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, good. I just wanted to check that I'm actually streaming properly. I can never tell on this damn thing. Cool. Good. There's the chat over there. All good things. Hello, anybody who's out there and is listening / watching. I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a breakdown of the debate that I had with Josh and Artemis on the Josh and Artemis show. Trying to see the chat as well, but maybe I'll move this over here. Just flip things around. That's better. Excuse me. Yeah, I wanted to have a bit of a watch of the debate and maybe critique some of the things that I said. Maybe add some more context to what has been said. Things like that. My upload of the stream was given a copyright strike by Josh and Artemis, which initially was very funny to me because it was like they didn't want other people to see it. But it turns out there was a bit of a miscommunication between them and I when we first started the debate, because I was sat in a little chat room before, like a backstage area, before the debate took place. And I said to them, is it okay if I record this and use it? And they said, yeah, go for it. It's, do whatever you want. We don't care. And I went, okay, great, cool. So I took that to mean, I can upload my own stream, my own version of the stream. But apparently that is not what they meant. What they meant was that I could make edits and chop things up and do things, which I also did as well. I made a little video of my favorite part of the debate, which you may have seen. It's gotten a few thousand views or a few thousand likes on Twitter, which is kind of cool. They claim, like I talked to them, they claim that they did not realize that it would give my channel a strike. Which is fine, and so they're going to go ahead and try to retract the copyright claim, and I'm going to delete the video itself. So that's that. I mean, all in all, I had fun. It was frustrating for me in a lot of ways because they were unwilling to accept any statistics or facts or scientific consensus or anything, which to some degree is fine, but they also didn't offer any counter evidence for their claims. All they did throughout the majority or all of the, I remember them at one point offering one article, I think, at a certain point. Other than that, there was not a lot in the way of evidence to back up any of their claims, which is frustrating because there's not really much to it. There was a lot of going around in circles in a lot of ways, which I also found frustrating because they would make certain claims and then they would fall back on, oh, we're not, like there was a point, and I'll probably get to it at a certain point. There was a point where they were talking about some guy or trans woman or something who somewhere or other and would go and do changing in bathrooms and flash his dick around and things like that. That was their claim, and that there was a this was a person that was exposing themselves to children, and they were trans. And this was an example of why trans people were a danger to women and children in bathrooms or whatever. And my question to them was, how is that relevant, or how was that proof that or evidence that trans people are a danger to women and children? And they said, well, because look, this is happening. And I'm like, yeah, but that's one example. I don't know if this person is trans. I don't really know. But I do have statistics that say that 90-something or other % of assaults, sexual assaults, are done by cis men, and 8 out of 10 are done by people who know the victim, right? So with those statistics in mind, what's the bigger problem here? Why are we creating hype over one person? Sure, that person's doing an awful thing, and we should probably do something about it. If that's the case. I don't actually know about this case. Going by how transphobes normally go about these things is they lie about this sort of stuff. That's kind of how transphobes kind of operate. Anyway, so they continue to give single anecdotes and things like that, and I would say to them, well, why is this relevant? And they say, because they're a trans person. And I'd say, well, how does that mean that why are you using that to generalize the entire LGBT community? And they'd say, we're not doing that. And then I'd say, okay, but why are you bringing this up when we're talking about, because what we're talking about here is creating legislation or rules or something or other that will prohibit trans people from being in the bathrooms of their gender. And they would say, yeah, because this guy, this trans person, is doing this thing. And I say, yeah, but so we'd go around in these circles because they didn't understand how statistics were important when we're talking about populations like this. And we also couldn't agree on what a trans person was. They were very adamant that a trans woman, is a man. And one of my points, which I'm actually kind of proud of, and I think is actually a very smart point, is that if trans women are men, are cis men, if they are equivalent, if they are the same thing, then statistically we should see no difference between the experiences of trans women and cis men, if they are the same thing, if they are. But we do see a difference in the statistics. For example, 1 in 4 trans women are likely to be assaulted in a bathroom, as opposed to not cis men. So we see this disparity in the experiences of cis men and transgender women, but they just denied that. They would fall back on denying that a cis woman cis man and a trans woman, that is a relevant distinction, and therefore they would just kind of throw out the statistic because this is not a relevant distinction, and so they don't have to fall back to try and explain the difference between sex and gender, because they keep going on about how sex is it defines what your gender is, and so I would give them anyway. I'm going to go and actually play the fucking thing, and we'll go from there. So let's have a. I'm gonna go forward because there's a bunch of introduction here.
Little clickbait thing.
Oh, this is right up front here. It was kind of funny to me because they started joking about misgendering me, but they were saying misgendering. They were referring to the fact that they called me Australian, and they were going, hold on, I need to change this thing. Here we go. There we go. I got the thing. So yeah, they were referring to the fact that they called me Australian. They're like, oh, we've misgendered him already. But then the thing was they were actually misgendering me. Not calling. I don't know that. I think at one point I brought up the fact that I was non-binary, and then when my pronouns are they, like I said to them, I was like, oh, but I think they don't. They're not very. I suppose polite is the word. There was a point in the debate where Josh said to me, okay, from the rest of the debate, I'm gonna identify as a trans woman, and I said, okay, great, and he thought that was some sort of gotcha, but so I think that's kind of the difference between them and me. If someone said to me, I identify as such and such, which again, I haven't really said this, but this is something that also bugs me, is like, there's this whole meme of, I identify as. I don't think I've ever heard someone say, I identify as such and such. They just say, I'm a woman, or I'm a, or these are my pronouns is a reasonably common one, I suppose. But I identify as, I don't really hear it that often. So I think it's a bit of a mischaracterization of what, because it also, when you say I identify as, it kind of implies that you've chosen a thing rather than you coming to understand a thing that you are. Anyway, kind of beside the point. Anyway, so this is them.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
because
whatever.
I don't think he is a trans rights activist.
No.
Well, this is. They were kind of discussing whether they thought I was a trans rights activist and whether it was okay to call me one when introducing me to the conversation. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, but
I guess maybe not an activist now, because
but
pretty extreme.
Yeah, but of course he is pro-trans when it.
Activists are apparently pro-trans, or trans rights activists are pretty extreme. This was something I made some notes. This is the thing: is I went ahead and I watched their discussion with Taylor Silverman, and I made a bunch of notes and kind of condensed those notes into I kind of broadish it. I'll show you over here. Here we go. These are the notes that I kind of made, and one of the things they said in the debate with Taylor Swift is it's Taylor in the discussion with Taylor Silverman, is they said if you're going to participate in these discussions, you should know what you're talking about. And so this is why I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure that these guys, all these people, know what being trans is and what gender is and what sex is and all these kinds of things, because in the discussion they were having with Taylor, they showed that they didn't understand a lot of these things. So I wrote down the things that I thought that they didn't understand, and then I made a bunch of got a bunch of sources to explain these things. This is why I had a lot of sources to go to in my debate with them. So these people don't understand what it is to be trans. This is the thing about cis men and trans women that I thought was very smart. This is what trans is. This is what dysphoria is. What is gender? What is sex? Gender identity is different from gender expression. What is gender dysphoria? And so here I have dysphoria, and then I have a link to a thing about dysphoria, and then the acceptance and psychological distress. So that's to do with acceptance of trans people and the amount of psychological distress that someone can face when they aren't accepted by people, like by their family and society and things like that. And then I have a bunch of articles here about puberty blockers and how effective they are and those sorts of things. They don't understand oppression. They were talking about oppression in a really weird kind of way. Like they said that because the trans flag is visible at the White House, that means that trans people aren't oppressed. So they didn't understand oppression. Statistics that show queer phobia in societal structures. So that's kind of handy to have there. I don't think I actually got to that. They have no understanding of the LGBTQ advocate's position. So that's the thing. Here's some facts about the LGBTQ community in the UK. They don't understand extremism. They keep throwing around this word extremist when talking about trans activists, and they don't understand that word. They keep throwing around the word cult. They've continued to call me a cultist, which is very bizarre to me. I struggle. I hesitate to call them cultists. Because this what is a cult? So here they don't understand what cults are. So they throw around the word cultist for trans activists, which is funny to me. But there's a list of things which, just when you are trying to identify what a cult is, these are things that they kind of exhibit, and one of them was a devotion to a single kind of leader. And in a sense, transphobes and stuff are sort of dedicated to, J.K. Rowling and things like that. But I mean, it's a little different. So I hesitate to say cultist, but it is kind of funny that they call me a cultist when I'm just following the science. They don't understand detrans people, so I had some facts about detransitioners. They actually brought up detransitioners at one point, and I tried to show them statistics about how like 98.9% of trans people are satisfied with their transition. So detransition is very rare, but they just said that those were false statistics. And then his risks to women. So this was to do with bathrooms and things like that. And again, the actual risks to people and to anyone really are cis men. So sexual violence perpetrated by cis men against girls and women occurs at epidemic rates. The most severe of this violence is directed at trans girls and women. So if cis men were the same as trans women, then that statistic wouldn't be a thing. but it is. So, cis men, and down the bottom here it says, of rape and sexual assault victims, 91% of women are women. Sorry, one out of 8 cases of rape, the victim knows the person who has sexually assaulted them. Of people who sexually abuse children, 34% are family members, and 96% are cis men. So the risk to women and children is cis men. And if we can't agree, if these people continue to, this is why I keep going back to wanting to try and define gender and define sex, because they kept conflating that, which is stupid. But I wanted to see that we could even agree that trans people or trans women aren't cis men. Because if we can't agree on that, then there's no point in even... Because one of the things they were getting upset about is the fact that we didn't even get to the trans women in sports. And there's no point in even having that discussion if we can't agree on basic facts about the thing. Right? There's no point in... Because all they're going to say is that, and I say this in the debate as well. All they're going to say is that men shouldn't be in women's sports, and if that's the assertion, then okay, I agree with that. But that's not the assertion, and we don't agree on the basic words there. They're saying men don't belong in sports, but by men they mean trans people. And when I hear men, I think cis men. Okay, cis men don't belong in sports. Great. Okay, in women's sports. Okay, but that's different from what they're saying. So if we can't agree on those, there's no point in even having that discussion. And they were upset that I wouldn't let them go there until we had agreed, and then we just never agreed. So
female sports and all this, which we kind of are as well. This is like the misconception of all of this. We're not anti-trans.
We're not anti-trans. A lol.
Never have been. But we just want fairness for women in women's sports, and we want female spaces to be protected, and also to leave the kids alone. Simple as that for us. Yeah. But we'll get into all of it.
So they want fairness in women's sports, and they want to leave the kids alone. I mean, it's. I mean, that's just a red flag right off the bat. Those are just transphobic dog whistles, really. If you want to leave the kids alone, you need to be worried about cis men. Cis men who know those children. Statistically, the biggest danger to those kids is cisgender men. This means men who identify with the gender they are assigned at birth. Sorry, guys, but that's a thing. You're assigned a gender at birth based on a little bit of a survey of your genitals, which is not your gender, that's your sex. And then, so a person who identifies with the gender that they're assigned at birth. A cis man who knows a child is more likely to assault that child, vastly more likely to assault that child than a random trans person. It just doesn't happen.
Sebastian, we're very much looking forward to speaking to him. We just watched his stream, his preview with his audience. So he seems like a very reasonable, chilled guy, to be honest. So.
Seems like a really reasonable, chill guy. That's me. I am actually pretty reasonable, and I am pretty chill. But they obviously didn't like the sort of reason that I was bringing to this debate.
So we're looking forward to speaking to him.
Typical Aussie New Zealander, maybe.
Yeah, he's not an Aussie. He's
I know.
He's New Zealand. We've misgendered him there.
So here's the little joke. Oh, they've misgendered me, lol. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, but both places actually look gorgeous.
Yeah, so we've got off to a bad start. We've misgendered him straight away.
True. We'll probably get some hate for that. It's all right. It's all right. We'll take it.
Well,
we're pretty tough.
Well, I've got family from New Zealand and from Australia, so.
I love this. I've got family in New Zealand and Australia. It's like saying I've got a black friend, so I can't be racist. Not saying they're being racist, but I just think that's a funny response for them.
My dad like his side of the family in Australia. Yeah. But anyway,
yeah, we'll get into Aslan. He is backstage. We had a brief chat with him, and like we said before, seems like a nice guy. So we're looking forward to it. Before we get into all this, guys, as usual, if you are brand new to our channel,
blah blah blah, fucking subscribe. Don't subscribe to the channel.
Hello.
I have since lost a lot of respect for these two. I mean, I you know, when I went into this, and I said this to them in my pre-thing, and I said this to them at the front, you know, I don't want to be going into this debate or whatever in bad faith or in, you know, shouting at each other or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I tried to keep that ideal from the beginning throughout the whole thing. I made a little joke here about me calling them pieces of shit. You'll see it because I'm a hilarious person. But I wanted it to be, you know, reasonably, you know, whatever the word is, nice most of the time. It got a little heated at certain points because of the various things that I've talked about, but most of the time it was pretty good. But then they went ahead and copyright struck my channel, which is fucking petty and childish. You know, even if they had a legitimate reason to do so, they could have contacted me and said, hey, we didn't agree to this. Can you take the video down? To which I would have said, oh, I thought we did agree. Sorry, I'll take it down. And I would have, and it would have been fine. But now I'm stuck with the copyright strike because these people decided to be petty and childish about their reaction to. But I mean, you know, it seems to me like a fucking reaction to the whole thing in general, you know. But they decided to do that, which is just a bit of a shame, to be honest. Like I said, like I was happy to. I said in this tweet thread, I was happy to kind of leave it alone and just be like, okay, these guys are obviously they don't trust the science or what, you know, trust the science. But they don't agree with science or they don't want to read science. You know, I did my best to try and, you know, offer them some sources to read and things like that. They didn't want to accept it. Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to just kind of go, whatever. But then they went ahead and did this thing. And now I'm like, okay, well, fuck you guys. Stop being pieces of that's kind of a dick move, really. And gloves come off. So, you know. I can't remember how I got there. It was a bit of a rant, to be honest. But anyway, let's go back to the thing. I'm just talking to these guys, these fucking dickheads from Canada. Oh, hey, sorry. See, hilarious. That was a great bit. Wasn't that a great bit? Tell them. Just fucking, you know, just dropping some fucking... mate.
No, it's a joke, yeah.
Comedy. Right. We love the bands.
Yeah.
So
we love the bands. Jesus Christ. That throughout this, and then also towards the end and stuff, you know, it's like this character that these people put on, like all of these like free speech warrior fucking right-wing weirdos who go on about, you know, we just want to have an open conversation and we love jokes and we, you know, and then like right at the end of it, you know, I said to them, you know, look, I know it's been frustrating, but this is when I was trying to offer them some stuff to read. I was like, I know it's been a bit of a frustrating time because it was a bit of a frustrating time, and that's okay to admit. But the guy's like, oh no, I'm not frustrated. You know, keeping this kind of weird character of, you know, I'm so rational that I don't get frustrated. I don't have feelings. Feelings are irrational, and it's like, oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. So, you know, this is kind of happening here as well.
Yeah, we're all about the bands. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Aslan. You know, you've been trying to quote us. Well, you've been tweeting us for a couple of weeks since our show with Taylor.
Yep.
Silver.
To be fair, I don't think I tweeted them for a couple of weeks. I tweeted them once when they first had the show with Taylor, and then she tweeted it again. This is before she blocked me, and I tweeted again under it, being like, "Hey, let me come on your show." So maybe twice, maybe three times, I tweeted at them, being like, "Hey, let me come on your show. Tell you why this trans panic is nonsense." Excuse me. So it wasn't like I was incessantly tweeting at them for weeks and weeks. It was just kind of like maybe one, maybe two. So, you know, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
Which to us, I mean, when we did that show with Taylor, that was the biggest response we've had from a show. You know,
like
in terms,
hate. towards Taylor.
In terms of hate towards a guest.
I'll let it play for a minute, but I have something to say about this.
It was pretty relentless with the comments, all this hate towards Taylor. I mean,
it was a bit surprising because we've had April Hutchinson, who's another female athlete on the show. Never any hate, but as soon as we got Taylor on or announced that we're having Taylor on, it was like just a flood of comments. We were really surprised, really.
So yeah, I mean, I'll speak to this. One of the things that they went on a lot about in the interview with Taylor, and then kind of here as well, they bring it up, is the fact that there's so much hate towards her and there's so much bullying and this, and Taylor rides this fucking thing as well. She's always like, I won't be silenced. I'm the one that spoke out against this insanity, all this sort of bullshit. And like, it either shows a complete lack of empathy for any other person or someone on the, people on the other side of the aisle or whatever, a complete unwillingness to engage with the other side, or just stupidity. Because, like, to think that trans people and trans activists, as they were hesitant to call me, don't receive hate. It's bizarre. I mean, I suppose you don't want to be, I don't understand it. I get that these people receive hate and stuff as well. I think it's justified, if I'm completely honest. I think it's the whole paradox of tolerance things. These people are spreading hatred and transphobia and bolstering a system which results and continues to marginalize trans people, some of the most marginalized people in our society. That's what they're doing. That's by saying the things and doing the things that they're doing. That is what they are doing. And I think that deserves pushback. Maybe there's some things that shouldn't be said. I don't know what are the things that are being said. And, maybe there's some things that shouldn't be said. But, like, the majority of stuff that I see, whenever I was making fun of Taylor before she blocked me, it was making fun of the fact that she kept losing to 10-year-olds. Which is funny and also telling, because it's like, okay, when you're doing skateboarding and you're losing to a 10-year-old, why are you zeroing in on the trans person that beat you? But I mean, the other, like I say, the point is that, it's not like, I mean, when I agreed to go on their show, the amount of shit that people were saying about me underneath their tweets about it was ridiculous. And I got a bunch of death threats, which is fucking, oh, actually, no, maybe that death threat was from, maybe that was because see, the thing is I get death threats quite often. Pictures of people, being like, lots of hanging trans people and guns and all that sort of shit. That happens to me constantly, all the time, because I'm speaking out about trans issues. So my thing is trying to reduce the amount of transphobia in the world, is trying to support trans people and oppose this oppression. Those people are on the opposite side of that. And I think there's a clear good and there's a clear bad in that situation. And sure, everyone's going to be receiving hate, but, to whine about it in this kind of way, sorry, I don't, it's crocodile tears. I saw that when I was watching, like I went ahead and watched was a bunch of the stream with you guys and her yesterday. And yeah, you brought her and you guys brought up a couple of times the amount of hate that excuse me that you get, and I suppose I just wanted to clear the record because I also received quite a bit of hate as well. In fact, on one of a couple of the tweets where I was saying that I was coming on your guys' show, definitely got some stuff being said. And I suppose I think it's just kind of important to recognize that happens to most, especially if you've got a bit of an audience, And that's not to condone what is said to Taylor. That being said, I do provoke it quite a lot. She's blocked me now, which is unfortunate, but they love the bands. The people that I would often quote tweet for certain reasons, which I think are fair, which we could potentially get into, but Yeah, I understand that.
We are curious, to be honest, if you do want to elaborate, just because like we said, like we've had other like women on the show who, talk about this, or like April Hutchinson, who is a female athlete. No hate, like in the comments and stuff. And then as soon as it was Taylor, it was we were curious as to why. Like, I don't know.
I think Taylor's a bit of a meme on the left because of the fact that she's lost to like 10-year-old girls as well as trans people. Pause this for a second. I just said, hey, welcome to the stream, friends. Just saw your tweet of the clip of Artemis happily admitting not looking into science, and I, as an MB man, found it very amusing. So I decided to check in, give me a break from the doom scrolling. Well, thanks for joining. I don't know how to say that. Brixton Clips, something like that. The Observer. Hey, Aslan, I have a question. See, I was arguing with a transphobe, and I just wanted to know, how did you know you're non-binary? Good question. That's a great question. How did I know I was non-binary? I'd always known that I always knew I was different. As a kid, throughout my life, there's always I've never kind of fit into the stereotypical kind of male gendered thing. But you just go on and live your life. Which is fine. For me, it was kind of fine. I mean, some people might suffer a little bit. I mean, maybe I did. I don't even know. Maybe I had some mental health issues because of that. I can't really say if I did or didn't. Beside the point. Point was that during my 20s, when I started to critique anti-feminists on the internet, I started to get involved a bit more with leftist Twitter and leftist YouTube. And I was introduced to the idea of trans people. Like, I'd not ever understood any of this stuff. I'd heard the words from people, but I didn't really understand what things were. And I started to be introduced to these concepts and things. People like, what's her name? Damn. I was watching a lot of ContraPoints at that time. There was Riley Dennis. Riley Dennis was another one. There was a bunch of people, and then, but the point is that I got to know some other people who were also non-binary, and I heard their experiences. They told me, or I read the things that they were experiencing as people, as non-binary people, and I identified very closely with those experiences, and I was like, oh, hold on, you felt those same things and had those same experiences that I did. Does that mean that I'm that thing? So I did a bit of soul searching for a bit, and I read a lot of stuff, and I came to understand the non-binary thing. That was the thing that best described my sense of self. So much that I tattooed "they" on my arm. So that's the thing. One thing that also happened for me more recently in my life was when I changed my name at my university, and I logged into my university thing one day, and it came up with Aslan as the name, and I had the most brilliant sense of gender euphoria. Like, from seeing that, and because I'd been worried for a while about changing my name legally and things like that, and I never, and I was kind of like, oh, this is the right thing to do, but then I saw that, and that happened to me, and I had this great sense of euphoria, and I was like, it's the right thing to do. Totally works. So that's that. Thanks for asking the question. I hope that was a sufficient answer. Braden, thanks Braden. Thanks for joining. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the debate over here. And so she's a bit of a meme because it's like talking about Taylor Silverman being a meme. She's saying about how she's lost to this trans person and how it's destroying women's sports and all that sort of stuff. But the fact that she also loses to 10-year-olds, it's like.
Well, we saw that and we were like, what? Really? We couldn't find anything online. But then she has replied to comments saying how it's not a 10-year-old. It was like a 31.
Yeah. So it's different people, right?
I don't know.
You're welcome.
We didn't find anything though, because we were curious about that, but we never found anything on.
So I explained this to them. I found this kind of weird. I didn't want to do it on the air for them, but like, hold on, let me just go ahead and if I go Taylor Silverman loses to 10-year-old. There's a bunch of articles. I'm trying to find. There was maybe if I go Taylor Silverman skate ranking. Was this the one? Maybe. What a series. I can't actually remember how I found it now, but no, that's not it. Border. Here it is. Found it. There it is. So this was the one. I think this is the one that I found. Here we go. And then I looked for Taylor. There we go. There's Taylor Silverman, 34th. Taylor Silverman, age 24, 34th. So this was for what's the thingy? This is Exposure Women's Vert Open results, 2019. February, I suppose. February 2019. And number 1 was a 17-year-old. Number 2 was a 21-year-old. Number 3 was a 23-year-old. Number 4 was a 26-year-old. Number 5 was a 10-year-old. Good on you, Ruby True. We salute you. So, in fact, there's a lot. There's a 12-year-old Ruby Lily. Very cool. 13-year-old Rory Lee. 13, Yurni Fuji, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, a 15-year-old, Bryce Wetstein, 11-year-old, Koharu Mina, 22, which is about Taylor's age, 12, 11, 9, she doesn't look 9, that's weird, 9, 7, 13, 12, 9, 10, 12, so there's like a million fucking under 10-year-olds that beat Taylor in this one event. That's, so I found it reasonably easy. I typed in Taylor Swift. I keep saying Taylor Swift. Taylor Silverman. Hey, Super. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining. It's so lovely to have you. What did I type in? Taylor Silverman skate ranking. And then, it was one of these ones down here. So it wasn't that difficult to find. So I don't know whether these guys are just not very smart. I do know that they're not very smart, but I'm going to trash talk them a lot in this. I'm sorry. I'm usually a pretty nice person, but when people do shit like this that they've done to me, I'm just like, fuck you. It's a pretty easy thing to find, but I hadn't actually looked at the rest of those ages. That's really funny. There was like 15 kids, under the age of 13. And yes, you're actually, Brayden, I think, I think that's very true. I also think that I still don't understand how a trans woman has a biological advantage in skating. I just don't get it. But my point has always been, if she loses to 10-year-olds, there's obviously some sort of skill issue there. It doesn't really matter that, okay, she lost to a trans person as well. And see, with the trans person thing, she only lost by one place. She did a really good job in that. She came second and the trans person came first. But she's like, oh, I lost a whole bunch of money and stuff. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, just cry more, you fucking loser.
Or whatever.
Okay, so
if you go, there's a couple of different sites. Like the one that I found was to do with this specific competition.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm talking about now.
I think I don't know what I googled exactly. I haven't got it off.
But like you went through the competition, like
and it's got the listings of all the different people, right? And she's like 34th or something like that.
I got the number right, 34.
Are some like 10-year-old girls, and that's the joke, And so, it's a bit of bants. But
they're obviously super stoked about my bants. I find that very funny. You can see they look like they're seething. I'm like telling them about how Taylor Silverman isn't a very good skater, and they're just like, fucking this piece of shit.
I hoped that before we got into the whole trans sports thing that we could kind of define our terms, I suppose, because I find these conversations very difficult when we're.
I see what you mean, Brayden. One of the. I say, I didn't get into the sports thing with these guys, these people. So I'm trying to change my gendered language a little bit. Anyway, I think it's interesting to think about how the construction of the sport and the way that the sport is judged and things like that can be skewed towards men, right? I think that the way that we view sports and the way that, and it's going to change depending on the sport and things like that. It's going to change depending on what sport you're watching and da-da-da-da-da. But I think it's interesting to look at the sports and see why it is that the male body is the ideal for what is judged as the best in that sport. So Braden brings up a good point that having a lower center of gravity is beneficial in skateboarding, and that's cool. But also, like, I would say, well, I mean, that, I don't know. I'd need to think about that a little more. But there could be other ways that you judge. Basically, what I'm saying is that I think that sports could be judged in a different, more egalitarian way potentially. That isn't like, oh, it's the fastest or the strongest or the that kind of shit. I don't know if these guys would agree with that though.
About two different things.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because
one thing that's kind of funny is I sent the clip of Artemis here saying, I don't need science because I'm a woman. I sent it to a friend of mine, and she came back and said, yeah, okay, but why do they look the same? Which I hadn't clocked that, but, like, they kind of do. Are they related? It's also just very funny in the context of, like, we're talking about how men can't be women and women can't be men, but, like, these two are just, like, they're, like, kind of the same. It's very funny. Anyway.
Having looked at, even the way that you framed this discussion.
Like, they've got similar highlights in their hair, and their lips are the same color. That maybe they have lipstick on, which, fine. I mean, that's a little bit, Josh, I don't know if you should be wearing lipstick. That's a very feminine thing to do, and we're not really allowed to do that, are we? Chesley, exactly. I mean, there's so many things. There's that list of stuff that Ari, someone or other, the amazing trans reporter on Twitter, she had this list of, trans people are now biologically advantaged at chess and Jeopardy and snooker, all these things that's just like, what? You would have the most androgynous person ever. That's hilarious. Oh my god. It would be Artemis. Artemis? I think Artemis would be the name. Good job, Artemis.
Is that it's men coming into women's sports and taking over women's sports.
Well, that's what it is.
I know, and so I get that that's what you guys believe, and that's cool. But if we're gonna have this discussion, we need to agree on where we're coming from. You guys are saying men, I'm saying trans people. We're not talking about the same thing, right?
Well, technically. Well, no, but technically we are.
Well, yeah, but
we need to start agreeing. If you just want to say your
piece, Aslan, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So
what I was getting at here, I'm just not going to. I don't want to create any arguments, but I'm just going to say I'm not surprised that they look transphobic. Yes, they do look transphobic. So the point that I was getting at here, which I explained a little earlier, was that if we don't agree on what we're talking about, if we don't agree on basic words, then we're just going to be arguing past each other. And this is why I started in this place. So they, are saying that that men don't belong in sports. And they automatically said, yes, that's right. And so, but what I'm trying to get at here is that when they say men, they are including trans women under that. When I say men, I'm thinking cisgender men, right? those aren't the same thing. They're just not. There's two different words. That's the thing, is there's two different words, so we're arguing about two different things. I can probably agree that cisgender men don't belong in women's sports. I mean, again, I think there's potentially a discussion to be made about, what's the word, co-ed sports or whatever. But I mean, that's kind of not what we're talking about either. But maybe I can agree that, cis men don't belong in sports. But that's not the same as saying that trans women don't belong in sports, because they're not the same thing. And we need to agree on this before we go ahead and have the argument about trans women in sports. Because we're arguing about trans women in sports, but they're thinking just men. We're not arguing about the same thing. And it's just, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. So this is why I had to start from this basic place, which they also just couldn't agree on.
I mean, we are talking about two different things there. One person saying men in sports, and another person is saying trans people in sports. We're talking about two different things. So we need to find a common ground and agree on the basic facts before we go. Because if you say to me, should men be allowed to compete in women's sports? I'd say no. But that's not what we're talking about, right?
Well, no. Well,
we're going based on biological facts, right? Of course, like a trans woman, and hold on, before we even get into that, we also agree that trans people, men and...
Yeah, this is a good point that Super brings up here, and also just a lot of people have kind of said as well. The fact that they keep coming back to, this is biological facts, but they dismiss science, any science that disagrees with them at all. It's very telling. That when they say biological facts, they don't actually mean biological facts. They mean that, because we get into this about the, whole advanced biology versus basic biology thing, they don't mean biological facts. They mean the simplified version of biology they were taught in primary school.
Women, because, there's both. That they should have a fair competition in sports. That shouldn't be an issue at all. But what we're saying is when trans women are competing in women's sports, there is an unfair advantage, even if they are on, I guess, like estrogen or testosterone blockers or whatever.
This is very scientific language here. Estrogen or testosterone blockers. Kind of shows you how much they know about hormone blockers and things like that, or because the blockers wouldn't be something that a trans woman would be on at that point. They would be on a kind of hormone replacement therapy, right? So that's not the thing. So they, it's a small point, but it shows that they don't actually know what they're talking about, because the language that they're using does not comport with what's actually being talked about. They often do this thing where they'll start talking about something and then they'll drift off into this other thing which isn't relevant to it, and I try to bring it back, but they keep being like, oh, and they get really upset. And yeah, it's bizarre. The other thing is, I just want to point out, because I had to make a concerted effort a lot of the time to not interject, and I know that I do throughout this debate actually talk over them quite often. And there are times when I'm saying to myself, either I'm saying, okay, just let them talk for a bit, or B, because at a certain point they threatened to kick me off the stream, which is funny. But second of all, trying to hammer my point home, because there were times when they would interrupt me as well, and I'm trying to finish a thought or an argument, and they would just talk over, and I'm like, no, let me finish my thought, let me finish what I'm trying to say, because they were getting upset at the beginning of a sentence without waiting for me to finish that sentence, and yeah, so it was very frustrating in a lot of ways.
Men and women are built differently, and that's things you can't change. Those are like larger organs, different body structure, different hip structures, like those are different.
See here I have to really control myself for not jumping in and being like, bone structure.
Advantages to women, and so that's why we say biological men or men, because at the end of the day, even if you are doing all the things to be a
I'm sorry about your mum, Braden.
When it comes to sports, there is an unfair advantage, and it's unfair to women as well.
You can see it on my face. You can see that I'm just like, I'm itching to just jump in. Yeah, you heard it right. Larger organs. Men have larger organs than women.
And that's the point, is that, women are getting injured by trans people in sports. Like, we posted another.
So this whole injury thing, I think is kind of silly as well. Like, I get that, that there are certain sports where you can be injured by things, but there's a whole bunch more of stuff going into that. First of all, when you larger organs, yes. The bone structure thing. So, like, when you agree to be in a sport, and I understand that maybe you don't have as much of a choice, or whatever, but like, if you're going into a sport like rugby or MMA or these contact sports, you're agreeing to a certain amount of injury in the first place. It's like, yeah, that's the sport you signed up for. And then further to that, if you agree to do a thing against, like, Alana Farrell, I believe is her name, trans MMA person, and has fought against, cisgender women, and lost and won both things, and in all those cases, the cisgender woman agreed to the fight. So what's the problem? They know what they're getting into. I mean, you're basically stripping the agency away from cisgender women. You're saying, oh, they can't make these decisions themselves. Which, at a certain point in this debate, they start calling me misogynist. But I think that's pretty fucking misogynist, is to go ahead and say, actually, I know better what cisgender women, I mean, they may have agreed to this, but sorry, darling, I think I know a little better than you, so you shouldn't be doing that. That's pretty fucking misogynist, guys. Sorry to say. And then the other thing is, like, there was another point that I wanted to make about injury and stuff. Maybe it was just that. No, I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
One today in volleyball where it completely just dominates. And
wait, hold on. Volleyball. How do you get injured by another person in volleyball? You're on opposite sides of the court. How the fuck does that happen? What are they running over to the other side and punching people in the face? What the fuck are you talking about? What I know that she is talking about, as far as I can tell, is that I think that there was another one of these single examples of a volleyball team of trans, or there's a trans people in the volleyball team beating some cis woman. I don't know. Also, it might be Mr. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat as well. If I don't reply to you, it's not because I hate you. It's because I can't read and think all at the same time. But I'll try my best. I hope that you guys are having a good discussion. On one hand, say both genders are capable in the sport, but then complain about someone's biological sex. Thing is that, like, I mean, it's a way more nuanced conversation that they're wanting to have. They're literally saying that trans women are men. That means they're better than women, therefore they shouldn't be allowed in sports. That is a ridiculously oversimplified, and this is something they agreed to as well. Like I said, no, society. Reality is not simple. Reality is complex. And you guys are wanting to have this really simple conversation, this really simple, easy to understand thing about something that is incredibly complex. But they couldn't accept that, which is silly, to say the least. But like, I think there's legitimate conversations to be had. About sports, because you got to have them about specific sports as well, and about how they're gendered and this, that, and the other thing. And there's going to be a lot of different ways that things go. I mean, like for myself, like I like weightlifting, and I have a certain limit that I get to as a reasonably like I'm not a professional weightlifter. I'm an untrained kind of layman weightlifter who can get, like, I've got a 90 kilo clean and jerk. Okay, there's this woman who's 10 years younger than me. She weighs about half my weight, and she can clean and jerk like 140 kilos, which is amazing to me. And she's a small woman. I mean, obviously it's not super comparable, but I mean, like, it's a lot more complex than they want to make it out to be. if me as a large man, ostensibly, can't weightlift as much as this tiny woman, what we need to have a proper nuanced discussion about it. Anyway,
there's also a safety risk to these women, so it's just unfair. And
there's always a safety risk when you're playing contact sports. I'm sorry, but that is just the case. And you're infantilizing these women. I don't think it's 300 pounds. I think it'd be like 90 kilos would be 180 pounds, maybe 200 pounds. It's 1 to 4, I think. 1.4. Anyway, I don't fucking know.
Just starting out in their sports. And that's why we clarify.
So they keep conflating so much shit. So we're talking about, first of all, it's like she's saying that sports are, that there's a physical danger to women in sports. If you put men in the sports with women. And then she's talking about women who are just getting started out in sports. So she's conflating the entire spectrum of beginner sports to fucking Olympic athlete sports, and then kind of conflating, being like, there's going to be like this giant man competing against a 10-year-old's girl. I mean, it's just nonsense. It's absolutely stripped of any kind of... Because they're not giving any context. That's why they don't want to have an actual nuanced discussion. Because if you strip it of the context, then it sounds awful. But it's not. They're conflating so much stuff into to try and argue their point. But it's nonsense. 90 kilos, 198 pounds. Let's round to 200 because that sounds way cooler. There we go. I have a 200 pound. I can do a 200 pound cleaner jerk. There you go. The other day I did.
That's why we stick to saying men and women's sports, because at the end of the day, there's no problem with you identifying as a trans woman, but when you're coming into sports or private spaces, there is a problem.
See, that argument just doesn't make sense to me. We call trans women men because when we're talking about sports or private spaces, there is a problem. And there's only a problem, but there is only a problem because you are unwilling to have a nuanced discussion about this. It's
it's an obvious problem.
So here there's a excuse me. There's certain some of the throughout this debate at certain points, instead of arguing with their frankly word salad, trying to get into all the nitty-gritty, kind of like I'm doing right now. So this is why I'm doing this right now. But in the debate, this can be a little overwhelming and a little bit silly. What I found was helpful was to ask simple questions to try and get a straight answer out of them that could then be brought back to what the actual point was. And this is kind of what I'm doing here. I don't know, I just got a question here. Can I get your opinion on people who are like, if trans people are so against gender stereotypes, why do they feel a need to conform to those stereotypes to deal with dysphoria? Yeah, sure. Trans people are part of society as well. Just because we want to break gender stereotypes, or because the idea of going against gender stereotypes, I think, is more of a fight against a systemic issue as opposed to your own individual experience. There's clinically, when we're talking about psychological distress that comes along with dysphoria, I mean, this is a clinically diagnosable thing, which I talk about with them a little bit later, and it's something that if you are caused a level of distress which makes it impossible for you to function on a day-to-day basis, or makes it very difficult for you to function on a day-to-day basis, obviously that's a problem and it needs to be solved somehow. And conforming to other gendered expressions may be a way to do that, but that's different from wanting to get rid of the normalization of those kinds of standards within society. I think there's two different kinds of two different discussions that you have that we would be having there, and I think it's worth talking about. I think it's definitely worth talking about. I hope that answers your question. You know. So this is what I'm doing here.
Do you think that there is any difference between a trans woman and a man?
Yeah, so you know, at this point we were talking about, you know, they were talking about the injuries and danger to women in sports and spaces and all this kinds of thing, and you know, and how trans women are men. You're welcome, Braden. Yeah, I think it's worth. Like I found an article on the American Psychological Association's website, which talks about gender dysphoria and why, you know, what it is and how it's diagnosed and those sorts of things. And I think it's important to read that sort of stuff because we can, I mean, in the quote unquote discourse, gender dysphoria and transness get conflated quite often. And I think it's important to recognize that not all trans people have dysphoria, and dysphoria is a result of it's a result of an incongruence with your gender, between your gender and your sex in a certain way, and also according to the American Psychological Association, it is a debilitating psychological issue. But that is not because you are trans. It is because the gender that you have been assigned is not congruent, or the gender that you are is not congruent with other things in your life, and that may be parts of your body, or it may be things to do with your clothing and things like that. There's a bunch of different stuff, and it's important to recognize that. So yeah, here I'm asking them, you know, do you think that a trans woman and a cis man are the same thing?
Like a cis man, a cisgendered man.
Depends what. Well, not really.
No, there's no.
No, but they can identify as that though.
Here's my stance on it, right? You know, a trans woman is effectively.
So just really quickly off before we get into this, I think it's important to recognize how they came into this debate and how I came into this debate, because when I had this discussion with them, a brief discussion with them over my Twitter DMs afterwards, where they told me they were very disappointed with my performance of the debate, and they were expecting one thing and they got another thing, and this, that, and the other, you know, all this kind of crocodile tears nonsense. But basically they were upset that I brought evidence to a debate. They were saying in these DMs that they were wanting to hear, and they repeat this in this debate as well, they were wanting to hear my opinion of these things. They wanted to hear my opinions about this, that, and the other thing. Well, my opinions are based off scientific facts, off studies, off statistics, off reviews of the experience of trans people and all that sort of stuff. That's what my opinions are based off. That helps me ground my opinions and my beliefs in reality. Their opinions are based off their feelings, their experiences, and maybe some, you know, their experiences and their feelings. You know, I mean, Artemis constantly goes on about her feelings as a woman and how trans people make her feel uncomfortable and things like that. And they often go on about, you know, the things that they were taught in primary school. So they're going on their feelings, and then they're using these very small anecdotes from news stories and things to reinforce those feelings. That's not a scientific or a rational way to form an opinion. But that's what they are doing, and it's not the same as what I do. But they were getting frustrated because I wasn't just giving into, oh, this is my opinion about such and such. See, and this is what Josh is doing here. He's saying, this is my opinion about trans people. And I came back and said, well, that's not the reality. Here's the science. Here's what the science says. And they're like, you know. So here we go. We'll just go back. Just go back.
But they can identify as that, though.
Here's my stance.
Here's my stance.
You know, a trans woman is effectively a man. So it's no different to me. Okay.
So I had to like restrain myself there. A trans woman is effectively a man. It's just not true.
But that trans woman, you know, if they choose to have surgeries to, you know, look like someone.
So here's me looking up the studies now.
Or they choose to identify as a woman, that's their choice, right? But that doesn't mean that I personally have to believe that they're actually a woman, you know?
Okay, so again, we've got two different things going on here. We've got women and we've got female, right? Okay, so do you...
So this is where I go into asking them about the difference between gender and sex.
Okay, so again, do you acknowledge the difference between sex and gender?
I personally don't think gender's a thing.
Here we go. I personally don't think that gender is a thing. So again, he's just going off his feeling or his religiously held belief, if I could phrase it a different way. I'm sorry, he sounds like your mum, Braden. I personally don't think that gender is a thing, and so here I go.
Okay, so that's just wrong.
This is just wrong.
I mean, it is. It's literally wrong. So I mean, if you look at any, so I just if I bring up. Here.
Because now, I mean, you've got like 100 different genders, apparently.
Well, no, okay, that's irrelevant to the point. Is
they would do this kind of thing as well, as they would just throw in these like weird red herrings, like this is and now there's like 100 different genders or something or other. It's just like that's irrelevant.
Sex and gender are two different things, and every psychological scientific organization in the United States and any reputable one is going to tell you that sex and gender are two different things. Do you get that?
Not really, because I've never went on gender. I've never went on gender, and I never will go on gender.
Yeah,
so here you go. So this is, I mean, this just proves it. They're going on their own personal experience. They're unwilling. First of all, they're unwilling to accept the experience of anybody else. They're just going, this is my experience, and therefore that's the reality. That's just what Josh has said here. I have said that every reputable scientific and psychological association within America and other places accepts and acknowledges the fact that gender and sex are two different things. It's just the reality. You could dispute those things if you want, but you would have a very, very, very heavy burden of proof to disprove that. And Josh doesn't have that. All he has is that I've never gone on gender before. Sorry, but that's not an argument. That's just nothing.
That's your personal experience. That's not the scientific consensus.
Hey, Jay Kung. Sorry if that's not your name, but that's your thing. 56. Thanks for joining us.
Can you understand that's an anecdotal thing? That's your experience. Okay, you don't.
Okay, so what is the scientific?
Okay, so I'll read you here from the what is it? The National Institute of Health, Office of Research in Women's Health. There you go. So sex is a multidimensional biological construct based on anatomy, physiology, genetics, and hormones. These components are sometimes referred to together as sex traits. And then gender can be broadly defined as a multidimensional construct that encompasses gender identity and expression, as well as the social and cultural expectations.
You can see how, like, look at their faces. Like, this just reminds me of it reminds somewhat what it must have been like it must have been Emma Vigland or maybe Matt Binder or something, you know, talking to Tim Pool and or maybe it was even Sam Cedar, you know, saying that Tim said to someone, you know, I love my job because I just don't have to read. And I feel like that's what these two, you know, they don't want to read anything. But you need to read stuff. And I'm reading this thing to them because this is the general. I mean, it's one website, okay? It's a, you know, Women's Health, some sort of NHS, so the National Institute of Health or whatever. So maybe a UK site thing. But this is going to be generally the idea that you find in all of these scientific places that understand that gender and sex are two different things, and their faces are just like, ugh, reading, ugh.
About status, characteristics, and behavior as they're associated with different sex traits. So they're two different things. One's a social construct and one is a biological thing.
Well, yeah. So basically, a social construct isn't really a real thing, then, is it? It's
just the fucking. Oh! I hate this so much. A social construct isn't a real thing. I'm sorry, but that's so dumb. I mean, I know that that's a meme from, you know, right-wing opinion, you know, ideas about stuff, but like the idea that a social construct is not a real thing, that's just, it's very dumb. And I say after this, I'm like, you know, money is a social construct, right? Does that mean that money's not real?
Social construct, a biological fact.
Money is a social construct.
There you go.
A biological fact is a fact.
A biological. He thinks that he's so profound. Is a biological fact is a fact. Sorry, that was my terrible British accent.
A social construct isn't a fact.
A social construct isn't a fact. Josh, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, do a single. I'm gonna Google what a social construct is real quick, and we'll be able to see what all you need to do is just Google what is a social construct. Hold on, let's have a look. Let's put this over here. Here we go. There's Taylor Silverman. What is a social construct? Okay, social constructivism is a term used in sociology, social ontology, and communication theory. The term can serve somewhat different functions in each field. However, I'm being on Wikipedia here. The term can serve somewhat different functions in each field. However, the foundation of this theoretical framework suggests that various facets of social reality, such as concepts, beliefs, norms, and values, are formed through conscious interactions, negotiations through society's members, rather than empirical observations of physical reality. So all it's saying is that things are real because we agree that things are real. It's like a religion. People, when you've got a whole bunch of people, a society, that's the social part, that we all agree that this thing is a real thing, therefore it is a real thing. Money is a social construct because we as a society all agree that it is a thing that you can use to exchange for goods and services or whatever. Gender is a social construct in the sense that we as a society have agreed that this is a thing that functions as part of human experience. I mean, it says down here, examples of social constructs range widely, encompassing the assigned value of money, concepts of the self-identity, beauty standards, gender, language is a social construct. Does that mean language isn't real? Race, ethnicity, social class, social hierarchy, nationality, religion, social norms, the modern calendar, units of time, marriage, education, citizenship, stereotypes, femininity and masculinity, social institutions, and even the idea of the social construct itself is a social construct. Are all those things not real? Are they not facts? Josh, you absolute moron.
Money is a social construct. Does that mean it's not
we're not
a fact?
Talking about that. We're talking about
no, but you just said that social constructs aren't a fact. I'm saying that social constructs are a fact. They are real. It does not mean
in this context, right? Yeah. Sex overrules gender.
I just oh my god! Like, he doesn't even understand. So he has stated the fact that gender is a social construct, therefore gender isn't real, and a biological fact is a fact, therefore it's a fact, and therefore it's more important than gender, which means that we should be paying attention to gender and not the unreal thing of the social construct of gender. And I point out that money is a social construct. Does that mean that that money isn't real? If we're just going to dismiss social constructs, and he goes, "It's not." It's just so dumb.
Why?
Because you can't change your sex.
Of course you can.
You can't change the chromosomes.
Of course you can.
No, you can't.
Once
you can't.
Hold on.
Once we die, Aslan, right?
What is okay? What you tell me? What sex is? What is the thing that defines your sex?
So I'm doing this thing again where I'm asking them the question, and I think this is a good debate tactic. I think it's important to instead of arguing with their thing, is to try and clarify what they're trying to say, because a lot of the time what they're saying is absolute nonsense here. And if you ask them further questions, it makes them think about what they're saying and try to articulate it more. And either that means they're going to say more stupid shit, which you can then, pull apart, or they're going to have to wrestle a little bit with their own bias, or with their own, sorry, not biases, but with their own beliefs. And I think that's important. But here they're saying, sorry, but I think that's actually, I think that's really smart of me.
Right. Yeah. Sex overrules gender.
Why?
I think that's a great. Sorry, but I think that's really smart. Sex overrules gender. I could argue with that, I suppose. I could be like, no, that's dumb. What the hell are you talking about? But instead, I say, why? And it means that he has to actually he actually has to wrestle with the assertion that he's making. And I think it makes him look even stupider.
Because you can't change your sex.
Of course you can.
You can't change your chromosomes.
Of course you can.
No, you can't.
So he goes on to say that you can't change your sex, which is kind of irrelevant to where the gender and because see, this is the thing is it goes and we're talking about one thing and suddenly it's off in this direction. We were talking about why sex and gender. First of all, why sex and gender are two different things, and then second of all, why sex. I mean, his assertion is that sex is the thing that we should be paying attention to, and that we should be, that should be the thing that we think about. Hey, Groovy Will, good to have you here, buddy. So nice to have you here. I'm actually going to finish up in about 15 minutes because I have to go and teach, but I'm going to continue doing this because I've only gotten 15 minutes into the debate and there's still an hour and a half to go. So I will do this again because I want to keep doing this. It's fun. But yeah, so we're talking about the importance of sex over gender. And then he goes and says that you can't change your sex. So that means that sex is more important than gender. And now we're off on this other tangent.
You can't.
Hold on.
Once we die last time, right?
What is okay? What you tell me what sex is? What?
So okay, sorry I keep stopping it every night. Pause it. Sorry I keep stopping it, but I really need to explain these things. So because he's saying that you can't change your sex. And I think it's just another one of those buzzwords. Well, this is the thing. Okay, so that's what I think. That's the important reason to challenge these things with these questions, to say why, to ask what do you mean, these things like this, because they're just repeating buzzwords. They're repeating buzz phrases that they've heard from transphobic thought leaders like Matt Walsh and Chaya Raichik and all these sort of people. They're just repeating things. They're not actually. They're not forming an opinion. They're just parroting talking points. They're saying that you can't change your sex, which doesn't make any sense in either of our ideologies, because I mean, with them, they go on all the time about. First of all, they go on all the time about how your sex is defined by your genitals. About you got a penis. They say it all the time. You're a penis, therefore you're a man. Okay, so if your penis defines you as a man, if you chop off your penis. Sorry, I don't mean to say chop off your penis. If you get sex reassignment surgery and you have a neovagina, but then you don't have a penis anymore. Therefore, you have changed your sex. Of course, you can change your sex. I think that you can. Of course, you can. You can do things that change the different parts, because sex is made up of so many different things. It's made up of these secondary sex characteristics. It's made up of the gametes. It's made up of some of the big and the small organs. There's all these things. And some of sure, you can't change your chromosomes, but there are things that you can change. Therefore, you can change your sex. Sorry, that's just a very dumb thing for them to say. And this is why I'm challenging them. They've said they're spouting a buzzword, a buzz phrase, you can't change your sex. And I say, why? And that means they have to think about it, but then they go off on some other fucking tangent.
What is the thing that defines your sex?
Biology, chromosomes.
How do you know what someone's chromosomes are?
And so this is another one of my favorite arguments, and please feel free to use some of these, because I think, neovagina is not a real vagina. Exactly. What the fuck is a real vagina? Okay. There's some arguments that I really think are good arguments to have against, or good things to say against transphobes. Sorry. So please take these, use them against transphobes, because I think that they are good ones. One of them is, how do you know what someone's chromosomes are? Because they go on about biological sex. They talk about all these things that define what someone's sex is. Yeah, chromosomes. There it is, super. But you have no way of knowing these things about a person when you meet them. This is why gender is a different thing from sex, because when you talk to someone for the first time and you assess them in this kind of social way, you make assessments about them, and then you either ask them or these are all social interactions, and they're nothing to do with the biology of a person. When I meet a person for the first time, I have no idea what their chromosomes are. I don't know what their gametes are. I don't know what their private parts are. I don't know what their genitals are. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's irrelevant to my assessment of what that person's gender is.
Cheek swab. Just do a cheek
swab. Say cheek swab.
You meet someone and you say to them, "Can I have a cheek swab?" before you say he or she.
Well, no, you.
Well, so come on. I mean, your eyes don't lie either.
Okay, so that's just
fine.
Can I have a cheek swab before you say?
I'm sorry, I missed a bit.
Well, no, you.
Well, so come on. I mean, your eyes don't lie either.
Okay, so that's just
fine.
We can always tell. So chromosomes are irrelevant to whether you assess someone's gender correctly or not.
Fine. Go beyond that. A woman has reproductive organs.
So first of all, she made the argument of we can always tell, which is very funny to me because they can never always tell. Never. They're always never telling.
How do you know what their reproductive organs of a person are when you meet them?
Well, you'll be able to tell the difference between vaginas.
So basically,
you can't. How do you know if someone's got a uterus when you see them for the first time?
Okay, a man has different bone structures.
Bone structure. I really need to have like a transphobic bingo card here. You know, we crossed off chromosomes, we crossed off bone structure. I think large organs is a good one. It's a new one. Large organs.
Like you can tell when a man is a woman.
Change.
I'm sorry.
If you get HRT, if you get hormone replacement therapy, your bone structure literally changes. But also, you can't see someone's.
See, she say, you know, here it's funny that they didn't go, no, it doesn't, because they're kind of wrestling with the thing. They're like, which is funny because, you know, normally, later on they just come out and say, no, that's dumb. But here they're like, I don't think that's true, but I don't want to say it because I might seem like an idiot.
Bone structure. What? These are things that are irrelevant.
No, not like body. I mean your face. It says it all in the face.
It's obvious.
It's obvious when
we've all got eyes. We've all got eyes.
That's not how science works, though.
So many different
biases.
trans people. No, it's just what your brain also recognizes.
Okay, so I've got a thread on my
patterns and shapes.
If you look at my Twitter.
That's a great idea, Braden. I think I might do that. Do a transphobic bingo.
Okay. I've got a thread at the top, which illustrates people always being able to tell, not being able to tell. I've put pictures of Riley Gaines. I've put pictures of J.K. Rowling. I've put pictures of a whole bunch of different cisgender women.
You can see she's just seething again. She's got that like fake smile.
And cisgender men. I did actually go through some of that the other day.
Yeah. So people looking. So your eyes can't always tell. So that disproves what you're saying.
Yeah, but I can guarantee this: if you put all of those photos and did a worldwide poll, I think most people would agree that they are women.
But that's got nothing to do with biology. That's to do with social, because people from different countries are going to have different standards on what on gender constructs and presentation and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think an interactive transphobia bingo is a great idea. I need to make this happen. Remind me on Twitter.
That's what gender is. Yeah, but to me, it feels.
Hey, if you want to make a bingo sheet, please, that'd be so cool. We should make it happen. I don't know when I can stream next. Maybe early next week sometime. But yeah, we should do it. I'm actually going to have to end here because I got to go and teach, which is a bummer because I'm really enjoying this. But I have to go and teach guitar. Stupid students. So we'll pause it there for now. So that's 15 minutes into the debate. We've still got an hour and 12 minutes to go. So I'll have to get back onto that. I do want to make some edits and just put up little clips on my Twitter, because there are some stuff just like there was something before that he said that was just so dumb and so funny. Oh, it was the thing about social constructs not being a real thing. That was so funny. Oh God. Anyway, hey, thank you guys for joining. It's really lovely to have you here. It's nice to have some discussion whilst I'm ranting away. Yeah, I just opened up my DMs on Twitter, so I didn't realize they weren't open. But thanks for joining in. Yeah, go ahead and sub to the channel because I'm going to try and do more of this stuff. I've got plenty of content here. Maybe we could do a transphobic bingo on the rest of this. So let's do that. Anyway, thanks guys. We'll catch you again when I can. I'll advertise on my Twitter feed when I'm doing another one. Peace.